The remedy. The remedy. What's underneath the situation you don't realize? So let's examine with a critical eye. Put on your glasses and let it magnify the truth that lies hidden under all those lies. Cause everybody has nobility, and if you look beyond what your eyes can see, you'll see they're just like you and me, and now we're giving you the remedy. Welcome to the Remedy Podcast. This podcast is a project of WEBB Squared, a North Carolina nonprofit that works to increase wealth for Black businesses through connection, network, and opportunity. Our host is Stephanie Terry, the Executive Director of WEBB Squared, and our co-hosts are Associate Director Rinnie and myself, Mashallah Salaam. I am the Media and Production Specialist. In this podcast, we hope to bring consciousness to the racial divide and speak on emerging new narratives about race. Thanks for joining us today. We hope you will enjoy the podcast.
Good morning. It's Podcast Tuesday. Hey, Mashallah. Hey, Rinnie.
Hey, guys.
Good morning.
How's everyone doing today?
I was doing good until I see you got us all organized in here.
Do you have issues with organization?
I don't.
You just showed off your brand new organizer.
Do you see how big it is?
It's huge.
I love it.
Oh, wow.
I'll be organized until 2023.
Oh, so it's multi-year
It
organization.
is.
Wow.
That's crazy, right? It'll probably be all tattered up. But anyway, so how was your weekend?
Good. I want to lift up that, I listen to a lot of podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
And so this weekend I was listening to a podcast called Skip Intro. And they do a lot of stuff on media. And the guy has like several episodes where he looks at cop shows, like really popular cop shows, and talks about how it's propaganda for police departments to kind of like spread this message that, cops are so cool. And it goes back into history to like the beginning of like cop shows. And like, I think the first episode's on Dragnet, and how as they were filming Dragnet, that it was actually funded by a police department.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah. And so then he goes into other cop shows, like there's like maybe 7 or 8 of them. And I just thought it was really interesting to think about how much our entertainment could be considered propaganda.
All of it.
That's what I was thinking.
Right?
Yeah.
Every last bit of it is propaganda.
And this whole idea of like changing the lens that you talk about, how we frame things and see things. Yeah. I just thought it was very interesting podcast to listen to this weekend. Really? I like mysteries. I like cop shows, and now I'm still watching them. I'm thinking about them very differently.
That's interesting. Lots of thoughts about that. Mashallah, what did you do this weekend?
So this weekend was really interesting. I did a talk along with 2 other youth. One of them, your son, Malachi.
Yeah, you did. It was awesome.
He is brilliant. And so it was really awesome just coming together and giving this talk, because Charles Bullock, he would be considered an elder. And so he wanted to get more youth involved in these Friday talks that he has. And they're called fireside chats. And so he wanted to hear the youth's perspective on things that we think about, like spirituality and identity and relationships. And so that was what the talk was about. We got everyone involved and just had a really open discussion between youth and elders. And so I invited some of my friends, and they came and contributed. So it was really an awesome.
Nice. It was really, really good. I think you all did a great, great job. And I was just proud of you both. I was proud of all of y'all. It was a good conversation too. So I kept my mouth shut. You see, I didn't say a word. So this is for the youth.
Thank you.
The youth. Stephanie, shut up. So me, on the other hand, I finally got the bathroom completed. Malachi's bathroom, which I didn't really go into because he's a guy. And anyway, so I did my bathroom over, and it's beautiful. and it's just gorgeous. It's,
Remodeling it?
well, not like remodeling the decor.
Mm.
You know, not like even though I did have it painted a couple. I think last year we got it painted. So finally, I brought it to all its full glory. So there's now when we sit on the throne in that bathroom, you feel like you're surrounded in luxury, that's what I like to create in my house. So anyway, these are my feelings. Michael was like, whatever, babe. It looks nice, but it's not all that. So I did the bathroom, and then I did something really, really sad. It wasn't quite, I took off yesterday. So we're moving out the kitchen.
From your kitchen where you do your catering business.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
It was really, I didn't realize it was going to be that emotional. You know, it was like all that hard work and literally blood, sweat, and tears. But it's time. You know, we were trying to survive through COVID, which we did, but then it was just a lot of 1-2 punches that we knew that it was time to let. And then I wouldn't be doing this amazing thing, right?
Yeah.
So we're moving out the kitchen. Our last day is on the 30th. Yeah, it was sad. I let myself feel my feelings. And I tried not to eat my feelings yesterday, even though I forgot that I was trying not to eat my feelings. And then I started eating my feelings. It was too late. I said, oh, well, what the heck? So, I had cake and fried chicken, and what else did I have?
You didn't bring none.
What else
She
did I
keeps
have?
promising.
I'm going to bring that mac and cheese. But anyway, so speaking of today, since I ate my feelings yesterday, now seriously, I have a new intermittent fasting routine. So it's every other day I'm fasting. So today is fast day. I only eat 500 calories today.
Wow.
So, and I will reward. You know what my reward is if I get it done?
Big piece of chocolate cake?
No. I'm going to treat myself to a massage.
Oh, that's a good reward.
That's a good reward,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So if I can get through the entire month, 4 weeks, then it's massage time. So I need references for a good masseuse.
We'll work on that for you.
Yeah. I want a man or a woman. Someone with strong hands. Probably a woman, so it won't cause problems. But yeah, so anyway. So look, okay, the banter part is done.
Are you following the outline as it's written?
Rinnie wrote this outline on the wall because Rinnie is on it with these podcasts, which I'm so glad. But so next we got to go to the celebration. What are we celebrating, Rinnie?
We are celebrating the fact that we have been producing the podcast for 6 weeks. We premiered August 17th. And in that time, we have 8 aired episodes.
Okay.
And we have had over 170 downloads since we premiered. Isn't that exciting?
Yes.
People can find us on Spotify, on Google Podcasts, on Amazon Music, on Apple Podcasts. All of the links are on our website at WEBB Squared.org on the Remedy podcast page, and people can just click on an icon and it takes you straight to the podcast.
I mean, go ahead, Rinnie.
So,
and Mashallah.
Yeah, no, we couldn't have done this work without Mashallah and her fantastic editing. So we're celebrating Mashallah as well and Afro Future Productions for working with us.
Thank you.
This is awesome. All I do is show up and just run my mouth. I don't do none of the other stuff. I didn't even know what a podcast was. I mean, I knew what it was, but I didn't listen to them.
Oh, gosh, I listen to them.
Yeah.
I'm pretty addicted to podcasts. So
that's great. So you said we premiered on August 17th?
That's right.
Okay, so we're going to have, next year, August, we're going to have a celebration.
Yeah.
Right.
Just think of how many downloads we're going to have by then.
And I also think we should probably say so this is what you all need to do. You all need to share the podcast.
That's right. You just put a link to the podcast episode on your Facebook page.
Okay.
On social media.
Okay. Well, you know how YouTube, they say like and share.
They should like, and also on their favorite podcast place, they should subscribe so that they get updates every week. we're aired, they'll get the new podcast.
Okay. Yeah, we're going to make this, in fact, we're going to do a little bonus podcast with, maybe I'll sing. I'm just playing. Look at Mashallah. She was But we're going to have some fun. We're going to talk about lots of great stuff. So, yeah, please share and like and hit or whatever you do.
And please send us, we had a couple of people send us, how much they like the podcast this weekend. You share with us how much you like it, and you'll become part of our promos from the podcast.
So, okay, enough about the celebration of the 170 downloads.
Well, we're just going to talk about the concept of empowerment. What is empowerment? I mean, we have very specific goals for our work with WEBB Squared entrepreneurs to help them, just have the most successful business and to uplift and celebrate their aspirations and their talents. I think it's just important to think about the concept of empowerment and what is it? How does it inform our work at WEBB Squared?
That's a good topic. So here's what comes to my mind. What empowerment is not.
Okay.
Can we just start there?
Sure.
Because, I've worked for nonprofits and I've seen many wonderful, wonderful people working that provides either some sort of direct service, like they're either feeding people or providing some necessity, which is awesome and needed. And then there are other organizations that are speaking up for people. And that's good too. But when it becomes the only thing that we're doing, that's not empowerment. Speaking up for people, what do they say? Speaking up for people who can't speak for themselves. Well, where are we addressing? Why can't they speak for themselves? Right? Yeah. And so while people say, we're empowering this group. Well, are you really? Are you addressing the barriers where people can't provide for the basic necessities of life? Are you addressing those structures, or are you just doing things that keep the status quo and the environment in place? Because that's not empowerment. That's partly where I wanted to start. What do y'all think?
No, I think it makes sense. In my racial equity training, they talked a little bit about social services and how there is a sense that a lot of social services, they do not address the systemic issues that underlie the reasons why they have to provide food for the homeless. Why are there homeless people? And systemically, rather, it's kind of like almost putting a Band-Aid on, but it's not healing the wound underneath. It's just kind of like a Band-Aid. And so I think it's interesting to lift that up, what empowerment is not. How do we make that leap from speaking for other people to actually having them have a voice in the world in which we live?
I think that it's important for people who are in those situations to be able to tell their own stories and speak for themselves. I think that sometimes when people try to help those people that are in need, they might carry this savior complex or feel like, in a way, it's kind of like they're empowering themselves by trying to help other people. And you see it specifically with movies dealing with Black history and Black stories. And Hollywood always makes a point to have that one white character, whether they actually existed or not, to be that representation of, this is the person that helped them get to where they are, and without them, they would be nowhere. And it takes away from the hard work that, the main character actually went through, or even takes away from, or actually makes it where the savior is the main character and not the actual people who worked hard to get to a point where they received justice.
There's so many movies like that, so many movies. And, we talked earlier about propaganda. It is sort of a propaganda that white people are the saviors of Black people, and so, we have that image where, I think it was the movie Green Book that everybody was talking about, the main character turned out to be this white guy driving this fantastic black person around who had this agency in his life of his own that was so amazing that they just glossed over it to make it the story about how this white guy changed in the process of driving this guy around.
I didn't know that.
Where they didn't even like lift up the life of this man who was an amazing musician in his own right. An African American classical and jazz pianist, Don Shirley. And he had this amazing story. And the Green Book narrative turned his story into like his relationship with his white driver and bodyguard, basically. And so it's like you don't even get to know Don Shirley's story through this narrative, because what you're seeing is just how the driver and bodyguard changed knowing Don Shirley.
You know, so this is shout out to my mentor, Miss Bendu. But we are so sham-shackled and myth-tangled. Sham-shackled and myth-tangled. I mean, it's just the propaganda. I guess we're going to talk about some propaganda because in media, right? Because it's just so powerful. First off, basically, what is propaganda? Do y'all know? I don't know. I don't know the legal definition, but I'll share what my definition is. It's manipulation through optics. And whether that optics is in education, whether those optics are visual, and it's manipulation through optics with an agenda.
Yeah.
It's attached to an agenda. It's not just manipulation for the sake of manipulation. There's always an agenda attached to it.
And I think a lot of that, that communication that comes through, the information that comes through is also misleading. It's not based in like a kind of a real perspective.
Right. It's whatever means is required to achieve the agenda, the goal. And so there is an agenda here always in the United States. And the agenda was to maintain the power and privilege of the wealthy white status quo, the establishment, first off, by keeping poor people divided by race. The races and whiteness and blackness was the means by which to keep that goal intact. You know, after a while, you know, when back in the 1600s, it was one thing, but then it changed in the 17th and the 18th and 19th and 20th century to like a whole nother thing. You understand? It's like a thing now. It's a monstrous thing that lives inside of us in a deep way, internalized in all kinds of ways. And so to make sense of like the facts of actually what happened, and then our interpretation, our perspectives around the facts are like two things. So there's the facts, and then there are all the different perspectives of those facts that are like colluding and colliding. And the propaganda helps to keep all of that chaos going.
Yeah.
You know?
It's so insidious. It's so insidious. It's just like, oh my gosh. And it's so powerful and it's so strong. And, you know, I'm just kind of thinking like, what is our role to empower people within this, like these systems that are full of propaganda and full of inequality and, you know, that are there for a reason, just like you said, to kind of keep people divided by race and, you know, because the wealthy want to stay wealthy.
I feel like we have to uplift the truth. So that reminds me, Stephanie, what you were saying reminded me of when I did this race equity training program, and it was a two-day thing, I think. And they taught us about how race is a social construct. And I've never heard about that before. And I was just really shocked. I think I was a teenager at that time. And I was like, who else knows about this? Does anybody else know about this other than the people in this room and the people that are doing the training? Because I've never talked about that or discussed that with people prior to that meeting, and it just made me want to tell the world, like, in that moment. And I just felt like if we knew that and understood that, things would be a whole lot different.
Well, Mashallah, how old were you when you learned that?
I'm thinking maybe around 16.
Oh, the world is getting better, because I was 40. I was 40. I was 40 something when I learned that. I was in my 40s.
Yeah, I was in my 40s when I took my first racial equity
Yes.
training too.
Yeah, and so that means that what's being taught or not being taught is still in play, right? And you said something. You said, well, you wanted to go and share it with the world. So many people know this now. So many people don't also, but a lot of us do. And yet, what do we do?
You mean if we know it, what do we do?
No, we know it. What do we do?
Well, we do what we're doing.
We proceed as we still lead with the false social construct, and we defend it. What do we say? Well, it's a social construct, and I get that. I get it. So let me. I'm gonna pose this question because I don't have an answer. I'm actually trying to figure this out myself. So if you find out something is a lie, but a world was created on that lie, then do you continue in the world created as the lie? Do you just keep responding and reacting to the world created based on the lie?
Well, it's hard to separate ourselves from that world. I mean, the world, that's why there's all this work around racial equity, and that it continues to be work that we have to do. We can't just sit back and say, okay, the lie's been exposed, but those systems have been ingrained so deeply and indoctrinated so deeply into that lie that all we can do is kind of share a little bit of truth as much as we can to hopefully keep waking people up,
So the concept of race itself is a lie, but I think that society and all of the things that has happened leading up to this point are very real, and it's real for a lot of people who have suffered and struggled. And I feel that because of the struggles that people went through and the suffering that people went through, it became a real thing. And it's hard to just suddenly say, oh, it was all false from the beginning, and then forget everything that happened after they created that concept and idea. So there's a lot of healing that needs to be done, and a lot of things that need to be addressed first, as well as knowing that, because it's going to be hard to forgive and forget if something is continuing to happen, if the same thing continues to happen, if suffering continues to happen. It's like if you're going through it constantly and you're still being treated as an other, then it's going to be really difficult to try to be in another mindset.
So, which leads us to empowerment. You see, we came full circle. That is well said, and I agree with the both of you. And I have some thoughts. This leads us right back to empowerment. But instead of empowerment, I think it should be in-powerment. In-powerment. And I'm saying empowerment because this world as we know it was created in power by white men using their imagination. Right?
Yeah, their imagination that told them that they were better than everybody else.
Exactly. And they created a whole world from it. And shout out to Kim Pevia, our Lumbee sister here in Robeson, North Carolina. She said she's sick and tired of living in the white man's imagination. And I said, ditto, I am too. We do not have to live in the white man's imagination. But what we can learn is if you look at look at it from that perspective, we can see that you actually can create a society, institutions, businesses, industries, culture, right? All the things of how we do life, if you understand how to be powerful using your consciousness, your collaborations, and your actions. And so I'm suggesting that I can't curse.
Yes, you can.
Yeah, you can.
I can?
Yeah.
This fucked up world that we're living in right now, right? With all of its myths and fallacies and flaws and lies, right? That if we begin to see it for what it is and stop putting so much belief in it, knowing that there is another way to be, to do education, to do health, to do relationships, to do religion, to do spirituality, to do community. And we begin to empower, understand that the power to do this other way and to be this other thing lies in us. First with self, then this thing will change.
So I have a question.
Yes, I'm the teacher. Go ahead, Rinnie.
All right. So I'm holding my hand up because you can't see. But so you talk about how if we use empowerment, and it affects everything, and we're in the business of empowering entrepreneurs. Let's talk a little bit about the mindset trainings that you have created around entrepreneurship that is going to empower Black entrepreneurs to kind of see the world in a different perspective, and it will also highlight their aspirations and goals and dreams.
We're doing it now. I'm doing it on y'all. Y'all didn't know.
The empowerment is happening.
Yes, it's
Mashallah,
happening.
Rinnie.
Yes. Yeah, I'm doing propaganda.
At least you're honest about it.
So now, seriously, the first thing about these wonderful trainings that we're going to be offering our WEBB Squared entrepreneurs is that it always starts with self, right? I am a firm believer that you cannot give what you don't have. You can't, right? If this is my cell phone, if I want to share it with you, I have to have it. And so we have to hold these, what do I want to call them? This analysis in ourselves, and we have to practice it in our own selves so that when we, share it, we can have some real authenticity around what we're discussing, because the premise is just kind of like a blueprint, but the way that it unfolds in your own life and in the entrepreneur's life, that's particular to that person, but there's like a template. And so the very first thing is, how powerful do you feel on a day-to-day basis? Like, what is your theory of power? What is your relationship to power? Are you feeling capable and able and strong and resilient and creative? Or are you feeling guilty, remorseful, sad, fearful, weak? So if that is our relationship, what is the environment? If that's our relationship to power internally, then I don't care all the trainers in the world. We got to first have a better environment so that when we're speaking and interacting and working with entrepreneurs, we can first off have understanding, because some of our entrepreneurs may be feeling all of those things, right? And then share from a place of authenticity our journey towards developing a power mindset.
Yeah, and last week you said story is everything.
Right.
That we have to continue to lift up people's stories.
Right.
And how do we see ourselves in these systems? How do we see ourselves as an empowered human being?
Right.
And just be consciously mindful of that.
When you talked about you can't give what you don't have, I also thought about what you said. It was be plus do equals have.
Mhm.
And I was wondering if you could explain that.
Sure. So being is thinking and feeling. And we're human beings. Right? If you really want to break down human, H-U-E, man, thinking and feeling. So I'm suggesting that thinking and feeling is actually a world, and it holds the potential to create the material world, right? And experiences and relationships. Do you follow me? If you need me to explain it different, please.
Do you have another way?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. So I'll go to this. Okay. We got this one mic. It's a beautiful mic. Thank you, Brian. Where did that mic come from?
You mean like how far back was it conceptualized and created?
Yeah, but I want Mashallah to answer that. Where did that mic come from? I mean, we can take it long or we can go straight to the essence, but
I'm trying to figure out if you want the deep answer or just the basic.
Give me the deep answer.
Okay. Well, it came from someone's imagination.
Perfect. There you go. We didn't have to say the store and then where the store come from. Okay, good.
Human ingenuity.
It came from someone's imagination, right? It came from ingenuity. It came from maybe a need, right? To amplify voice. Anyway, the point is someone had a thought. The same thing with the laptop. The same thing with these chairs that we're sitting in. The same thing that this building that we're sitting in. It came from a thought, and more often a thought that was shared, right? That's the collaboration, right? And then what happened? People acted on those thoughts. They didn't just sit around thinking about it. They then began to talk about it, and then they began to act on it. And they worked at making it become a thing. And that's literally how we got this microphone that we're talking in. And just think about all of the different people with the different skill sets and all of the different areas of expertise that was required to bring this microphone into physical form, right? That's amazing collaboration. But it started with a thought. And so what I am suggesting is that the power, the in-powerment, holds the potential to make a new world, a new material world, new institutions, new industries, new society, new culture, new relationships that can be based on the truth about who we are and not some false social construct that would only advantage a select few.
Mm-hmm.
And if we really understand that, then we would be empowered, knowing that all of that potential lies within each one of us. First, through deep reflection of our own thought processes and belief systems, and then through conversation and collaboration in building a community, and then that community acting together, emerging the true narratives and true belief systems that will create a better world.
Wow, let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's be and do, and so that we can have a whole new world.
Yeah. It's literally that simply complex. That's really simple, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it requires power. In power.
Yeah. So what you're saying sounds a lot like the law of attraction. And I'm wondering, is it similar what you're saying, or is it inspired by the law of attraction?
I'm very aware of the law of attraction, but I think what I am more referencing right now is the law of cause and effect. So having a proper understanding of cause and effect, and getting back in alignment with the cause, having a more causal understanding. Because right now, we place belief and we give power to things outside of ourselves, people outside of ourselves, right? People go crazy over money. They think money is power. They think we think we give all kinds of things power, and so we give effects power. This is just more realigning, having a proper understanding of cause and effect, like a real understanding, like where do things come from, if that makes sense.
Definitely the world I want to live in versus the world that we have.
So what about your inner world? That's where I'm focusing on you, Rinnie.
Well, I mean, we've talked a lot today, so I'm just kind of like, I think inner world is like a whole conversation that could be, could take up a whole podcast. But
Okay. We're gonna have a podcast about our inner worlds.
Okay.
Look at everybody's eyes got big. Oh shit. We're gonna talk about what?
No, I'm all for it. It's just, I don't know if we can, time frame ways like.
Yeah. So we will continue this conversation.
Yeah.
Because you know what? I know we've been socialized and conditioned to do and act, but we need to learn how to be, and we need to come clean, about our inner world, because that's really what we're experiencing. The outer world is just a reflection of the inner world. And so all this pain and misery and suffering and injustice, that's a reflection of something going on inside of the masses of people.
Yeah.
And so we need to address that.
Can we, as we do this, it's just nice to know that we're not alone in doing this work.
No.
I mean, there are people out there who are really appreciative and supportive of us. And
yes, and so we're going to lift up Frank. Frank, thank you, Frank.
Yeah. Who is Frank Phoenix, and why are we thanking him today?
Frank Phoenix is I would like to call him a gentleman.
Yeah.
That I just met through Tammy, and so that's the politically correct way to say it. Let me say what my experience with Frank. Frank is a wonderful soul. He is a human being that we had this conversation about being and cause and effect and power. And he's definitely an ally. He is a white ally getting in touch with his inner world and doing awesome work. I think he has something to do or founded Weaver Street Markets. But yeah, he's an amazing human being. I am so incredibly happy to know him. It was a miracle to meet him because we've read many of the same books and share a lot of analysis around the same things. So Frank gave us a generous donation. We're not going to say how much.
Through his organization,
the Fenwick Foundation. But Frank, we made payroll. Hallelujah. We made it. I didn't know how we were going to do it this month, but we did it. So thank you, Frank Phoenix. He is a part of our community. And I hope you all enjoyed this conversation. I hope everybody became very uncomfortable.
I hope you guys feel like our love for each other and how much humor and fun we have as we go deep dive into these uncomfortable.
Yes.
That's where the revolution begins,
it
right?
It really does.
It begins with that self-exploration through dialogue and conversation. Thank you all for listening and being a part of our community and discussion. And we hope that you will join us for the journey.
Yes, and yes, some of y'all need to join on Patreon because I would love to do this live. Wouldn't that be fun?
Yeah, and we have so many plans for people who, if they join us on Patreon, to have like real conversations with you all. So please join the conversation.
This has been a joint podcast of WEBB Squared and Afro Future Productions. For those of you interested in learning more about our work at WEBB Squared, you can find out more at webbsquared.org. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. This is our conscious conversation. We hope you will subscribe today on your favorite podcast platform. Join the Remedy Membership Forum on Patreon to join us monthly for our members-only discussion. That's it for today. Until next week, thanks for listening.
What's underneath the situation you don't realize? So let's examine with a critical eye. Put on your glasses and let it magnify the truth that lies hidden under all those lies. Cause everybody has nobility, and if you look beyond what your eyes can see, you'll see they're just like you and me, and now we're giving you the remedy.
The remedy.